speaking of JJ, prior to you interviewing for manager, I'm wondering what you knew about him, and then upon coming here, why do you think you guys work well together?
Well, I mean, what I knew of him, I mean, even very superficially, like when I was a freshman in college and he was at Mason, like he and Lonnie and Kenny Munoz and some of the guys that still work here were older players on a good George Mason team. So like our veteran guys, our juniors and seniors knew of them. So I'd always heard his name back then. But then, I didn't know much about him other than we had run into each other one time in the Dominican, probably, couldn't tell you what year, maybe 2010 or 11, something like that. So really didn't know much about him other than that we had some connections of people we played with or against each other from Virginia area. But then once we got to start to work together, I mean, we just have a lot of common beliefs in building relationships, curiosity, want to hear everybody's opinions and voices and just get as many good people around you as possible and lift everybody up. So I think common traits like that are part of the reason we work well together.
Were those evident in that interview?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in depth, but just, how it is. Like you get in a room, you either have easy conversations with people or you don't. And sometimes that becomes evident quickly. And in this case, I thought it was not just JJ, but a lot of people here were easy to talk to.
What have you seen from Daniel Lynch so far this spring?
A lot of what we saw in September last year, the conviction with his pitches. I think he's still developed and continuing to develop the better breaking ball. It has good depth to it. Confidence, throwing a ton of strikes.
I know he's being built up as a starter, but as we kind of get into spring training, what do you see his role as, as we look toward opening day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we're gonna keep building him up. We have to be ready for that. I mean, he's in the mix to have a spot in the rotation. That being said, there's also opportunity in the bullpen. So he's going to have to be patient and see how things play out, and that's how we're approaching this as well.
Second year with Joe Dillon on your staff, how has he kind of helped with some of the improvements of the guys at the plate?
Joe's a great hitting coach. I mean, I think Zumi had always kind of had Joe in the back of his mind, and then when we had the opportunity last year, we made sure we interviewed him and kind of went after him. I mean, he's really talented. He had a really interesting and good playing career. A lot of different things that he accomplished. And he was a good hitter himself, so he has those experiences. He's worked with some really high-profile hitters. He's also worked in the lower levels of the minor leagues, so he's got a broad scope of things he can do. And I think that helps reach a lot of different guys on our team.
When you have prospects in camp like Quatraro and Zobak, they're throwing lives today, and Cameron too even. What do you hope that they get out of like these early days of spring and just kind of being in like the big league clubhouse, thrown in front of the big league coaches?
Well, there's a lot to take away from it. One is understanding that they're close, right, and understanding that their stuff probably is good enough, but also understanding and being willing to learn from the guys that have done what they've done, and maybe there are subtle adjustments to make, but that it's not light years away for them. That it's okay, I belong here. Maybe there's some things I need to tweak. Maybe I can help. Maybe we can help expedite that a little bit. But understanding too that like just getting your heart rate slowed down because of those things you said. It's probably the first time they've thrown bullpens in front of 60 people that are out here when everything's going on and a NASA setup behind them, and all that stuff. I mean, they do that in the minor leagues, but it's just a bigger scope. So understanding that it's the same game and the steal the Hoosiers thing, it's still 10-foot rim, right? And it's still 60 feet 6 inches. So I think that's the biggest thing for them.
So much about spring training is like making decisions for your current roster, 26-man, but how much of it too is about you and the other coaches seeing those kind of guys and kind of looking at what the next couple of years might look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun for me, right? Because you follow these guys in box scores and see a little video here and there and talk to Paul Gibson and those guys about them. But when you get to see them and understand what they're about and talk to them a little bit, it's very exciting.
The bench battles, two names, Kevin Biggio, Harold Castro. What do you like about what they could bring to the team?
A lot of versatility, and openness to play wherever to help the team win. They're both in really good spots. They've worked hard throughout the winter. Harold was playing winter ball. Kevin was working a ton on his swing and his athleticism to put himself in the best spot to compete. So I think it's exciting to have two really good players in that boat.
And their versatility, where can each one of them? Where do you envision?
Well, what we've told them in spring training is they're going to stay mostly in the infield to play first, second, and third. In a pinch, Harold might go to short, but I don't see that really playing out in the spring as much. They can both play in the outfield as well, but in the spring we have so many guys that we're trying to get into the outfield. There'll probably be less opportunity for that in the spring.